Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Today on Breaking Protocol, we're diving into the Machiner, a Transformers-like sentry mech hybrid created by a faction distinct from the Xavior line and the Snacklets, designed specifically to challenge your senses of safety and push your mastery of blocking, air blocking, and shield charge decision making. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! For the Machiner itself, should the sentry mode, since it's stationary, right, should it track Zura in the air, forcing aerial blocks and riskier routes, or do you prefer a straight shot turret that you can jump over them?
So at this point, the way we have it right now is that it doesn't track you in the air. We might make it so that it has like a maximum angle. We'll say like 30 degrees up or something.
Right.
But not like it could track you like all the way. I'm
like
not quite
180
sure
or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more other things that we could do in order to make the enemy interesting. And like I said, like imagine like you have like a low ceiling horizontal room.
Yeah.
And there's a machiner at the end of it. You're having a bad day at this point. So that's already like good enough for an enemy. That's already kind of chaotic enough because you have to figure out how to get through. And you might not be able to, so maybe your mind is saying, okay, this is like a fictitious door. Like, it's not really a door, but I can't go through. So I need to find a way around it. Maybe this is not a shield moment anymore. Now it's a katana moment where you have to find a way around and, break the level design in order to get behind them. That's kind of what I think it's a better use of its function. But there are moments, of course, we have flying enemies that are really interesting. We have like the Sky Trooper that we revealed but haven't done like a lot to show more of him. That is a very, very intense air enemy. Has a lot of attacks and it's very dangerous. It's an exo that flies, pretty much, and it does a lot of weird stuff. So if you have a machiner on the floor, and I don't know, or you have like two of these things in the air, your space of maneuvering it's not a lot. Because these things do a lot of things to track you and to kind of fight you, and then you have to start parrying and blocking and
yeah. But if Zura can
it.
parry and block, then maybe hit the enemies in the airs with the turret's ammo and stuff.
For example, yeah, that's something that we're thinking about. Like,
right.
How do we do that? Like, is that normal? Like, does it come with a shield, or is that like an upgrade that we get, or is that like a protocol? Things like that we're thinking, how do we make this feel like the player grew into it versus like day one you start and like you have because if you think about it, and this is not to get overly technical of the system, but it's valuable for people to think about. We have a block meter, like in a way, so you can't block forever, but what we're thinking about is like bullets from certain colors is the way we're thinking. We're not sure. I don't want to make promises, but some concept that we have is that bullets of a certain color, you don't like they don't take any block. Like they're just,
if it's just like pop shots from like a snacklet, you're fine
as long as you block, of course. If they hit you like for real damage. But then there might be like pretty much, imagine it like 3 levels of bullets. I'm not sure, this is just an example.
Yeah
3 levels of bullets, and one of them doesn't do very much to block, one just normal damage to block, and one is like it actually does damage only to block and not to health, for example. So there's certain moments where we definitely want you to lose all your block, and that's part of the game. So that might be the case. But those are just examples. So we need to have stuff like that in order to be able to for you to be able to hold that block button and not run out of block and not feel like how boring, right? This enemy that shoots all these bullets, but like in a fraction of a second my block's gone and then I'm dead. So then you're in a hurry. to solve for the problem, and that's not the fantasy. The fantasy is that you can hold your block and this thing can't kill you, but you can't kill it. Now, the moment you let go of that button, you're pretty dead. So you're still able to jump and do a bunch of stuff, but that's the mindset. So yeah, there is other ways than the enemy like tracking you through the air, but it's definitely an option because I can imagine that's very frustrating. And in certain moments, having an enemy that is that frustrating could be really fun. There's also an opportunity for us to take this enemy and say like, hey, the first few times is normal, and then there's another version that now like tracks you and is able to do that, and you don't expect it. Very cool too. But I would rather have more enemies in a room, and then have them control the rest of the space. But we'll see. We'll see what that looks like in the future. It's a good point for sure.
Right. Before the last question, just a little thing I want to say. If there is an elite version of the Machiner, I really hope that it's like purple, just as a nod to Galvatron, just because it's so badass. So you mentioned protocols just in your last answer. So I know we haven't done a dedicated protocol episode yet. Don't worry. I think I already have a script drafted for that when we get to it. And that's a whole big discussion in itself, right? If you want to like quickly explain it, cool, whatever. But just because you said the word protocol, this is different than the title Shade Protocol. This is like an actual mechanic within the game that you get to use. My question is, what kind of protocol interactions would you love to see come online, specifically because of enemies like the Machiner that controls the space within a room?
That's a really good question, actually. Let me think. I do love the idea of protocols being so game-changing that if that's the protocol you chose for this one moment, you feel like deeply rewarded because that's the playstyle that you chose. So I'll make an example here. This is not a real protocol. I'm just prefacing this as an example. Let's say there is a protocol that, in this, without going to technical, what in this situation would be a call. So is a call is a trigger to, it's the type of trigger that you choose. And then there's something called a function, which is the actual effect. So you have effects and triggers. Imagine it like that. You pair them together. That's how you get a protocol. So let's imagine there's like this trigger that you could set for yourself that says like whenever you block or parry, that's the trigger, right? Whenever you block or parry, this other thing would happen. That's way too constant, but let's say it was the case. Let's say maybe whenever you block 3 times, but it doesn't matter. So if you have an enemy that's shooting at you this many times and you're constantly blocking, there is something incredible about that feeling, right? Like you found an enemy that you could block pretty much perpetually. And all these calls are happening nonstop, right? So let's say there's something that says, we showed one called code for effects, which spawns spawns a drone, a little drone that's like a snack bot that is friendly. So it's your little drone. You get to have 3 of them. Let's imagine there's a situation where you can end up like with a every time you spawn one, like you get out to 3, and when you have 3. Then they start like merging and becoming a little strong and a little strong until you get like the best version of a snack bot you could have. So literally you find a Machiner and you have this setup. You could just block and then pretty much get all the way to like 3 tier 3 snack bots because you're constantly calling this function, right? That's something that if you do that and that's how you like to play the game, this one moment you're going to be deeply rewarded for it. There's definitely other things that we could do, but something like, for example, this specific protocol setup makes you reflect bullets. That's not really a great protocol because that will make it so that most players would say, well, this is too good. So I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna stick to that because the moment that you change, then you will lose that playstyle completely, and therefore you won't be able to feel comfortable with anything else. So we don't want it to be really lost. It should be augmentation of your playstyle. So something like that could come in another version. I'm not promising talent trees here, but let's say each instrument has a talent tree or upgrades or something like that. Then maybe like something that belongs to the shield, and you eventually like kind of gain the ability to reflect bullets. but that should not be dependent on. Imagine if we put like a triple jump inside a protocol. People are not going to play anything else because that will get you to places you're not supposed to, right? And it will make you be able to skip areas and whatnot. So we cannot put certain things inside protocols that will make a player so dependent on it that they will not want to play anything else. So that's the long-winded version of like there is a lot of enemies, a lot more enemies than the Machiner that will try to control you, and then you can use your creativity and your build, we'll call it, in order to get around that. But it shouldn't be to the point where the build is giving you the answer. It should be that you have an answer and the build's making it better, so that you can always feel like you can depart that protocol setup, play something else, and still get a similar answer. Maybe not as effective, but similar answer. So that's kind of like the answer I would say. There are a lot of enemies that will benefit from, like, you will benefit from having the specific type of setup. Let's say there's like an enemy that has a ton of armor. So if you have like a protocol setup that is really, really good at destroying armor, then you're going to have a better time than somebody that doesn't. But that doesn't mean that the other person won't be able to get through. It's just you are incredibly well positioned to do that. And enemies that deny you space or deny you access, other than deny you health by killing you, those enemies will definitely have either instruments, protocols, or other things we haven't revealed yet in order to kind of get around their what makes them strong. But it should be more active than just like some button that you click and now, some decision that you made and by consequence this is easy for you. It's mostly going to be active stuff for sure.
This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help with Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.